Hello, welcome everybody to the Scottish Blockchain Meetup tonight, now in the month of September. So tonight, obviously coming to you from Glasgow, so it's great we always said we'd try one in Glasgow, so it's great to see such a good turnout tonight. Thanks everyone for coming along. And thanks tonight to City of Glasgow College for hosting us, Strathclyde Uni, Greg as well for helping us sort out the venue. And of course MBN, who I was going to say supplied the pizzas and beer, but some of you may notice the beer isn't here. So that was Asda's fault, so everyone boycott Asda. They were supposed to deliver it and they said they turned up, nobody was here, so apologies for that. But tonight, just before we start, just to remind you all about Scotchain 17, which is coming up next month, the 13th of October. Tickets are selling well, so I'd advise if you don't want to miss it, please register, get on the website, get your tickets as soon as possible so you don't miss out. And as part of that Scotchain 17, we're also doing a hack chain, as you can see there, hackchain.co.uk, so please check that out as well. It's run by legal hackers and the Guild Geeks. Arlene's here tonight if anyone wants to speak to her. I know she's looking for a bit of support on that, so please help out if you can. So tonight, as you can see from the Meetup page, we've got blockchain, cryptocurrency, ICOs and more, with Greg Paul, Strathclyde Uni, and Ross Laurie, the Blockchain Lab in Deloitte. But just before we start, I'm going to ask Craig Steele to come up. He's from Coder Dojo. Some of you may have heard of it, maybe not. It's really good work they do with kids between 7 and 17, helping them to get into coding. So Craig's just going to give a quick introduction to that for 5 minutes. All right, here you go.
Cheers. Thank you. There we go. Can you see me all right? I'll just light up myself with the smartphone. So, good evening. My name's Craig Steele. I'm a computer scientist, gadget geek, and interested in all things tech. And I lead Coder Dojo in Scotland. So Scotland is facing a challenge over the next... Didn't realise I had a transition. So Scotland is facing a challenge over the next decade. So the latest figures reveal that there's about 13,000 digital job vacancies each year in Scotland. Only half of those roles are currently being filled. So there are more jobs than ever in this area, and this digital skills gap is going to be a real issue. So nationally at the moment, about 17% of schools in Scotland have no computing specialist. So that's 62 secondary schools across the country that don't have a subject specialist in computing to deliver the experiences and outcomes for that subject or deliver the certificate level courses. Now this short talk tonight is not meant to be a dig at the formal education system, but we can't rely on the formal education system alone to solve that digital skills gap. So what are we doing about it? So I run a thing called Coder Dojo. So Coder Dojo is a national network of free computer coding clubs for young people. So our clubs are run by volunteers from technology backgrounds who are keen to share their skills with the next generation of digital makers. So at our clubs, young people learn how to build games, design apps, make wearable technology and more. So it gives them a chance to play about and learn, experiment as well with cutting edge tech. But the most important thing is it makes learning to code a fun and sociable experience. So I started the first club at Glasgow Science Centre 5 years ago, and at that time when I was doing it, there weren't clubs out there. If you were a young person who were interested in football or dance or something like that, there was somewhere that you could go and be part of that. But if you were a young person who was interested in technology, there wasn't really somewhere that you could go and meet other peers like that. So we've grown ever since then, and there's now Coder Dojos not just in Glasgow, but in Edinburgh, Stirling, Dundee, Renfrewshire, Islay, Inverness. So there's now about 30 clubs right across Scotland. So these are our latest figures. We've got a great geographic reach, and we're working with dozens of volunteers and around 400 young people across Scotland each month. So the Coder Dojos here in Glasgow are some of the most popular in the country. So our Science Centre Dojo has been going now for 5 years. And Martin, who's with me tonight, he's been helping set up a whole fleet of these Coder Dojos throughout Glasgow libraries. In fact, earlier this month, we were proud to win the Education Award as part of the Inspiring Cities Awards in Glasgow. But our main goal is how do we support that next generation of Scottish digital makers? So what are the ways that we're doing it? Well, we need to find ways to reach different demographics of young people as well. So many of the young people who already come to Coder Dojos, they're already interested in things like STEM, science and technology. And they're fortunate enough to come from families who can support them or provide them with equipment or doing things like taking them to the clubs as well. But we need to make sure that we can attract and support young people who wouldn't normally be able to attend these types of clubs. So last year our goal was to establish 2 Coder Dojo clubs in areas of multiple deprivation, and we achieved those goals. In fact, we opened 5 in those areas. And for the new clubs that we've been set up, 57% of those participants come from areas of high deprivation. So while this hasn't been without its challenges, we're reaching a more diverse group of young people than ever before. We've also been looking at how we tackle the gender imbalance in our Coder Dojo clubs, and we've recently published a toolkit that shows ways that we've found that don't only just attract a better gender balance, but help us maintain it as well. So when we started doing this, we had about 18% girls at our dojo, but now we're at the stage where on average across all our clubs, we've got 30% girls, which is brilliant. But this figure isn't reflective of every single club. There's some clubs out there who've got much better gender balance, and there's actually some clubs out there that don't have girls as well. But we also want to be able to celebrate the success of our young people. So this year we had a group of 8 young people attend the Coolest Projects Awards in Dublin. So this was a chance for them to meet other people who were interested in things like them and showcase their projects. And Team Scotland were winners too. So Lucas and Michael were runners up in their category after making it a fantastic game that combined hardware and software. And we were fortunate that NBN offered sponsorship that paid towards their travel and the cost to attend that event. But the reason why I'm here tonight is we want to help you support a Coder Dojo, because the key to making a Coder Dojo successful is our team of volunteers and mentors. At our Coder Dojo, the learning is led by the young people, so there's not a set curriculum. So we encourage our mentors to come along and share subjects and specialisms that they're passionate about. Because Coder Dojo is about a great learning experience for everyone who's there. It's not just for the young people. You know, our volunteers tell us that they get just as much out of talking to a 14-year-old who's really interested in that subject as well. And they also get to mentor and meet other people from the tech community. So ways that you can get involved, we don't want hardware to be a barrier to being part of a Coder Dojo. So perhaps you or your company have old laptops or equipment or tablets or things that you aren't using. It would be great if you wanted to donate something like that to a Coder Dojo, because they would really get use out of it as well. You also might want to create and share resources. So we've had companies, small companies as well, so Paper Tank in Glasgow, they built us a few projects that help young people get understanding about how to build stuff for the web. And that was really useful because it was being made by people in industry. So I'd hope at an event like this tonight, if you've got a particular specialism in fintech or in blockchain, it'd be really interesting to see some resources for 14-year-olds. How would you create something that teaches them something fundamental about that area? And lastly, you can get along-term clubs as well, because the feedback from the young people and their parents who come to the club is very telling. Because we ask them, you know, what is it you enjoy most about Coder Dojo? Yes, they enjoy playing with tech. Yes, they enjoy developing these new digital skills. But they are most thankful for the support of the volunteers. And I'm here tonight because I know that the dojos, particularly in Glasgow, are always seeking new volunteers. I mean, we've got some already, but we can always do with more. And definitely in a place like Glasgow, which is filled with technical talent, there's certainly not a lack of talent in people getting involved. So these are different ways that you can get involved. You might want to donate hardware and software. You might want to help us build a resource that can be then used at all our dojos. Or even better, you could come along and support one of our dojos. So generally, dojos run about once a month and they last 90 minutes. So it's not a huge amount of time as well. So to bridge that digital skills gap, we need to challenge what people think about technology, and we need to show that computer coding is not just a set of skills for a certain type of person, but this is for everyone. So I invite you to talk to me later tonight about ways that you can get involved with supporting that next generation of digital makers. Thank you.
Right. This is what happens when you make things complex and you put too much stuff online. So, I made the title Blockchain, Cryptocurrency, ICOs and More, and originally we weren't sure what we're necessarily going to do. But what we're going to talk about is just a broad spread. So a lot of people here have seen Blockchain 101, I think one or two people saw Blockchain 102, which was a kind of variant of that, but I wanted to do something a wee bit different this time. So, new city, let's do something else. Oh, it's not going forwards. Let's see what we can do. No? No. Let's see if we can go forwards.
Click the first slide, you're on the last slide.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, so if someone can send a radar report to Apple to fix that, that'd be brilliant. So previously on Blockchain 101, we looked at things like how Bitcoin worked. Not going to go through that, but if we've got the block, we have the block header and these sorts of things, and we've talked about how we form blocks and so on and so forth. And this is how we build useful applications, because we put things inside the transactions, we bundle the transactions into blocks, and we build our stuff from there. So there's different types of blockchain, and I thought we'd kind of look at these briefly. So we've got public, like Bitcoin, fairly straightforward. We all know about that. We've got anyone can read, anyone can write, along with all the problems that comes with, like put a libellus statement into it, and then now everyone's got to hold a copy of it forevermore. Permissioned, anyone can read, but you can control who writes. So that's your kind of hyperledger type things where you've got control over who does what on the system. And then you've got your fully private chains where it's it's controlled read and write. You've got control over who's going to do anything to that system. These ones are a bit pointless because they're also called databases. So, since then, what's happened since Blockchain 101? I started giving that talk a long time ago. But since then, cryptocurrency has gone into absolute mania and overdrive. It's absolutely unreal, the kind of ICOs and things we've got going on. So let's have a look and see what's happening. Yeah, to the moon, hold on. This is the sort of rhetoric you do legitimately see in cryptocurrency communities. People, sorry? No. Oh yeah, you'll see it's hold later on. That's hold on, not hold for currency, right? So valuation speculation, that is a big one, right? A lot of people are speculating right now that the value is going to go up. The value of Bitcoin is unstable. The value of most cryptocurrencies is unstable, but instability means that people see a big fluctuation day to day. So they look back and say, hey, if I'd bought then and sold then, I'd have made a fortune. And then they look at it and say, hey, if I bought now and sold, if I'd sold 5 minutes ago, I would have made a fortune. And what this has led to is effectively the American gold rush after the Civil War. So you've got a bunch of people running around looking for gold. Usually there's not really any tangible justification either about where this valuation comes from. It's just paper valuations. Market caps, that sort of thing. So are we in the middle of a bubble? I'll pose it as a question. ICO fever as well. This is the really big one. Get your initial coin offerings here sort of thing. People, pretty much everybody has launched an ICO these days, including people with absolutely nothing to do with blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, or really anything to do with technology. They're even starting to try to put out ICOs, because it's just a new way to raise money. Ross is going to talk more about ICOs, so I don't want to kind of steal that sort of thunder. But what is an ICO? Well, is it an unregulated magic money tree? Quite possibly. It's been billed as democratizing fundraising. It's seen as the way to disrupt the disruptors, to go out to Silicon Valley VCs, knock on the door and say, hey guys, you're getting disrupted. Because there's now no barriers. If you want to raise money off a VC, you probably have to go and actually do something in order to get that. You want to do this? Make a website, we'll have a look at that later. So, how an ICO works, so we look at the mechanics. Generally, you take one cryptocurrency, normally that's established, so your Ethereum or your Bitcoin or similar, and then what you do is you use that to buy another. So you give some random person you've never met on the internet your money in the hope that they give you back a kind of random blockchain-y coin token thing. This is going to raise the value of Ethereum and Bitcoin as well, because if you've not got them, you go and buy them, and when you buy, you raise the price. And then based on your perception of this idea, you're going to put money in, and then based on that perception, other people are going to make a valuation of what they think this concept is worth. Generally, this is concepts. People are producing a white paper and saying, hey, I've had the best idea since sliced bread. It's just an idea, it doesn't work, but hey, give me $150 million. These are often likened as being like IPOs. Hey, this is opening it to the public can invest, the public can also lose the money. Public share offerings, that sort of thing. So that's where the model's based around, is that of an initial public offering for a company. The difference is you IPO after trading for 5 years and having an established product and customer base. With an ICO, you wrote a white paper 2 days ago in LaTeX. Anyone can take part in an ICO though, which is interesting. There's usually some rules about US citizens not taking part because their regulators, the SEC, have some issues and think that IPOs might be a little bit illegal in some of their rules. So generally what you do is they put a little tick box that says, are you a US citizen? If you are, please tick here. And we can all see how well that's going to stop American citizens investing. But there's a big difference. You've got no control here. You don't have any say in the company's operation unless somebody makes a custom ICO to do this. You don't have shares in the company. You don't get the right to vote in the company. You don't have any kind of legal status with it. If they decide to make a new coin tomorrow, there's no guarantee you're going to get any of that coin, that sort of thing. You're not a shareholder, and that is the big difference here. It's a form of crowdfunding in essence. So there's no legal route that you've got. They don't have any duty of care towards you as an investor because you're not an investor. You bought a token, and the token doesn't really exist. You don't have any way to exercise control of the company. This is where the idea of the DAO came in. For Ethereum, the idea was that you would build a true organisation where the tokens for it were then used to exert control of the company. That's not generally what you're seeing with an ICO. A few are, but a lot of them are just saying, hey, dump your Ethereum in this pocket here. So yeah, you need to be quite careful what you're putting your money into and don't put in what you can't afford to lose. Does it matter though? Does it matter? In tech stuff, it often doesn't actually matter whether you've got a say in the company because the tech companies come along and come up with really clever ways to avoid you actually having a say in the running of the company. So if you look at Google, Google has got 2 stock tickers, GOOG and GOOGL. One of them is a Class A stock and it has a vote, 1 vote per share. One of them is a Class C stock and has no votes per share. And the one, I think it's Google with the L, has trades about $15 more because you get a vote. So you get a say in how Google's run, except you don't, because the Class B shares have got way more votes than you do and they're held only by Googlers. But the theory's there that you can exert some control. But in reality, maybe having control is not really going to help you. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be things to think about, but one to be aware of. Shareholders get dividends in companies as well. Just one to keep in mind, you're not guaranteed dividends. You're not a shareholder, you don't actually hold anything to do with the company. They can fold it tomorrow and start a new one if they feel like it. Your hope really is that the value of the coin is going to increase. And what that leads you on to is what's the coins for. So in essence, it's a decentralized Kickstarter, but really it's more like a hardware Kickstarter where you can buy a black box and then really hope that it delivers on what it claims. If it doesn't deliver, you've not really got any recourse either. It's interesting, the SEC in the US is starting to look at, what can we do here? Can we perhaps regulate? Are some of the statements being made going to be seen as, offerings or indications of future performance and similar? But for the most part, you're going to have to track them down still, and a lot of people are not based in the US doing it. Funny example, I did think I'd bring up Juicero. Has anyone heard of Juicero? The $700 juicer, which can be replaced with a pair of hands. So you can take your hands and you can squeeze the juice packet and get basically exactly the same thing. And they did blind tests and no one could tell the difference because they were squeezing juice out. But they were going to charge you $700 for it. So I thought that was a kind of an example of the sort of thing you've got to be careful that you're not buying into when it comes to ICOs. You want to make sure you're not buying a Juicero. You've got to be careful because there's a lot of people trying to sell those sorts of things in coin. And as you might have seen, they wrote one of these letters that starts, "To our loyal customers and partners." We all know what's about to happen next, don't we? Yeah, we decided that we couldn't really do what we wanted to do, so we're going to shut it. But this quote I thought was interesting. This is a quote that was from a professor in Cornell, and it kind of sums up the scenario here quite well with what we see. Is that if you want to raise cash through a standard VC process, then you have to, you have to have a credible team. You have to, go through things like that. You've got due diligence. You get rounds of funding. You've got milestones to deliver before you unlock the next round of funds. You've got to go back and get more investors on board. But Bancor, which was a token here that didn't have that many lines of code at all, really, raised, they said 9-digit, I don't know if anyone remembers that, it was $150 million or something, and they raised that with no actual proof that their thing worked at all. They just wrote some code and said, wrote some kind of code and said, hey, we've made a thing, so you might want to invest in it. Bye. So where's the money? That's really the question. And one of the reasons we say where's the money? Well, a lot of ICOs you see in the news have been hacked. So Enigma ICO got hacked, about $500,000 went down the pan. Veritasium, I was trying to say that one, about $8 million got stolen, like $8 million. We're almost getting desensitized when we see these figures, oh no, it was only 8 million there. Oh, 32 million there for a multi-signature wallet. So that was just stealing people's money off them. $32 million got taken, and that was July. July as well, $7 million was stolen in that one. They were really smart actually. So when you buy in, you take the address, you have to take an address that you're going to buy into and put it into your Ethereum client. And these guys decided that they would make the wrong address show only a fraction of the time on the website in the hope no one would spot it. And indeed no one did spot it. So, one in however many people was actually sending money to the thief. Quite clever. But, that was another 7 million, and that was July as well. Then you've got flash crashes and the price, price manipulation, that sort of thing. Come back to that a wee bit later. Bitfinex, $66 million got stolen. Provided you accept that you could actually liquidate the Ethereum. The problem with that is, if you were to try to sell your $66 million, you would drop the price down to about half a cent, because no one wants to sell. So, 3 recent big problems that we're seeing here, right? The first one is the ICOs being hacked, but really what this is just people's computers and servers getting hacked because they don't know how to look after them and lock down their computer. But it's at the point now where somebody had a password that was in one of the leaked password lists from when a server got compromised, and that was his email password. And you could use that to reset his Slack password, and that was how they went in and changed the website to put their address on the page. Oops. Change your passwords, people, especially if you're going to launch an ICO. Even better than that, his business colleague had just posted something on Business Insider, like 5 steps to make sure your blockchain ICO doesn't get hacked. Clickbait much. A lack of liquidity in coins is another one. That's what caused the flash crash. When you've not got anyone wanting, when everyone buys in high and puts a stop loss order saying, don't let me lose any money, I'm risk averse, I don't want to lose a penny, so if the price drops down, I want you to sell immediately. What this actually causes is a flash crash, because people have to be willing to accept that the price is going to fluctuate. When someone put in a big order for about $1 million on a sell, it dropped the price down a little bit, and that triggers stop loss orders, and that sold off more, and selling off more brings the price down further and further, and then people who are margin trading, well, they got a margin call which caused a sell, and next thing you know, you're down to 10 cents. Oops. If everyone's trying to hold, there you go, then your sale can actually trigger a panic runoff. So you've got to be careful. And then centralized exchanges, yeah, they're not the best, because when you hack them, it is literally the magic money cloud, because you throw something at it, it bursts, and magic money spills all over the place. Mt. Gox, Bitfinex, Steemit, they weren't an exchange, but they held people's money in a wallet, that sort of thing, Bitstamp, etc. So, what are these tokens? We hear about these tokens, on Ethereum tokens, everyone can make one sort of thing. You can build your own in a few minutes, and it's a way to make kind of bottle cap money. So if you want to make some kind of particular type of bottle cap, you can give it a purpose, you can put a name on it, and you can trade it. And if you can then come up with a use for it, you can see who's got them, and other people can't forge them and make their own. So nice simple system. You treat them as, I suppose, as a coin. It could be used even to represent property. If you made one of them, one of a kind, it could be used to represent some kind of smart property. People have been trying to build like Pokemon and trading games on it and things like that before, whatever you want. You can transfer them, you normally can't subdivide them. So it's, it is effectively a bottle cap that you can, pass around and you can't copy. So ICOs, if you want to launch an ICO, let's have a little bit of a kind of roadmap, which is obviously going to be a little bit cynical, as you might imagine. So create some, loads and loads, make some tokens or coins using ERC20. It takes about 2 minutes to do. We'll do it at the end for fun, because that's the cool sort of thing to do. Invent an idea, the wackier the better. You don't actually need blockchain, so blockchain completely optional. You don't need to interact with blockchain, just make the token on it and then sell it. It doesn't matter what your idea is. Make a metric shed load, not an imperial one, metric shed load of hype around the idea, hype it up, post it on the blogs, Twitter about it, put it on your YouTube, make these explainer videos with the kind of startup-y, plinky music at the start, because people love that sort of thing and think it means you need to put money in. Make it look like a Kickstarter. Promise, people just promise it anyway, but you could imply and go by the rules, some big massive return when people want this coin, everyone's going to want this coin. This coin is going to be the future of trade in the United Kingdom. This coin is going to revolutionise Europe, that sort of nonsense. People say this stuff all the time and then collect vast amounts of Ether and Bitcoin in exchange for a worthless coin that you made, basically from nothing, because it takes you 2 minutes to do. So this is the problem we've got, is there's some good things out there in the space, and it's a brilliant way for people who would normally not get funding to get funding. The problem we've got is there's a lot of these as well that are not so good and are just people who want to make some money. That is, pretty much how an ICO goes. So some ICOs do actually make a real smart contracts and put the money in smart contracts, a bit like the DAO, and they do legitimate things with actual code, and they've not just written a white paper and pretended to have made something. So there are some that are good, and they've even got experts to look at them. So the disparity you get across the spectrum is unreal. And in that case, you're actually getting a coin that's built into something that's actually perhaps got some value and utility to it. But why do people buy them? Well, they think the price is going to go up. Fairly straightforward. If you think the price is going up and the price is low, then you buy it. And then when the price goes up, you sell it. And if the price tanks, then you go, oops, didn't want to do that. So people are thinking it's going to go up, and they look at Bitcoin and they look at Ethereum and they look at these big market cap ICOs and say, it's on the way to the moon, I'm getting on. So why is the price going to go up? Well, because more people want to buy it than to sell it, because they think it's going to go to the moon as well. So might as well buy in, let's all dive on board. But it's really the hope that the token is funding an idea that succeeds, because if the token is somehow tied into some service that's going to use the token in the future, then in theory people might actually want to buy it for some useful purpose. And the common model you see is that customers will need these tokens in order to use the product or service. This is normally completely arbitrary, but it's the kind of promise they make to their investors to say, hey, if you invest in our product with these coins, then the people that use it need the coins, so they'll have to buy them off you at a high price. So that's the kind of idea that's been presented there. And that causes some demand, and that means that you can sell your tokens to these buyers. So that's the kind of how it should work. But this assumes a rational market. Who here thinks that cryptocurrency is a rational market? Do we have any takers? No, it's not a rational market. It's really not rational. There's a lot of people doing a lot of strange things, and a lot of people have a lot of money sloshing around. There's a coin just now called FOMO coin. FOMO stands for fear of missing out, and because that's what drives a lot of the ICOs, someone made a coin for fear of missing out. Don't get fear of missing out, get the coin. I think it was like -1 days ago. That kind of tells you how much time was spent on the website. But yeah, it's based on the Ethereum blockchain, and all the cool kids do it, so we might as well. This is the stuff they're actually saying. It has more lines of code than Banker, so they're worth even more than their $3.5 million per line of code. That's a true figure, by the way, $3.5 million per line of code. And they mentioned blockchain, and that's a buzzword, so that's good. And it's not a copy-paste job, and they've got a white paper, and I thought I'd look at the white paper, and it's actually a brilliant white paper. It's really detailed. This is a paper, and it's white. Yeah. Someone else then decided to up it a step further and actually make a coin called Useless Ethereum Token. It's a token that does absolutely nothing. Yeah, people spent about $40,000, I think, going into that one. They don't even have a white paper. They've just said that they promise that they will, if they make money, they'll use the funds to manipulate the market and to fluctuate the price, because that's what everyone else is doing anyway. But low interest rates are one of the things that's causing this. In the regular financial markets, there's not really any good returns out there for people right now. The base rate is 0.5, it'll probably go up to 0.75. Is it? No, 0.25 is it just now? 0.25, and it might go up to 0.5 soon. That's really low. And what this means is there's a lot of cash just sloshing around, and people are putting it into cryptocurrency because they're seeing these crazy gains. Scam coins. Let's talk about them. So we've talked about ICOs, we've talked about cryptocurrencies, but what's going on? Because there are some scam coins that are actually just being created purely to coin people out of money. A lot of ICOs are actually people legitimately trying to build something cool, and they go and they actually build the product. But sometimes people just make a coin, and they're just trying to make a currency. So there was an example here from the FCA. The FCA are the ones that regulate all kind of financial services in the UK, the banks, etc. And they put out an alert to people warning them about virtual currencies like OneCoin. So it's a kind of multi-level marketing scheme sort of thing, where you've got money coming in and it goes down the lines and this sort of thing. It's a really complex structure whereby you earn based on what the people you recruit earn, that sort of thing. And yeah, how do we spot potential scam coin? What are the sorts of things to look out for? It's useful to know because it can help you warn people off if you do see you getting involved. If you're buying educational materials with some free tokens, that is a big, 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 big red flag, because you sell the educational materials, give a token away free, no one can say they get missold to. If there's pressure to buy, fear factor, that sort of thing, that sort of thing's a red flag as well. And when people start to use aspirational benefits and start telling you, imagine having your mortgage paid off and your kids going to university with no student debt and all these kinds of imageries and visualizations, yeah, that generally is a bit of a problem that normally points to something a bit untoward. And when people invent buzzwords like internet of blockchains, then I'm going to trademark that. So yeah, internet of blockchains is mine now. But they do invent these kinds of buzzwords because it sounds good and it sounds credible. Then just look how Bitcoin grew. Our coin will grow likewise. So just pretend your Bitcoin is going to grow as much as them. Give people an exclusive opportunity to buy in early, just for your friends and family. Get in early before it goes big, before we go mainstream, before we go mass market. Get in early now with all your cash. Any kind of complex structure with leaders, chains, multi-level marketing type. The people below you earn money for you, sort of thing. Yeah, the numbers don't add up. You can work it out in the back of a napkin that it doesn't make sense. And people who try to get your friends and family to buy in as well, generally a wee bit of a red flag. And watch out for meetings in random hotels, because when someone's using a function suite in a hotel to host this random event, generally it means that they don't actually know people in the community in order to get hosted in a slightly more credible place. There's a nice actual paper from a university in the US about this, and they identified 192 different scams and 13,000 victims. So lots of people are working in the space, so there's good research out there. So if you get more demand than supply, the price will usually rise. We talked about that earlier. And if everyone wants to sell, the price is going to fall. Yeah. But you have to sell to see your returns. So if you don't have something you can sell, you're never actually going to see your money. You're never going to see the gain that you think you've made. So your gains are stuck in paper, and it could still crash. I was saying to someone earlier, for all we know, Bitcoin could drop to zero right now. It could. It's not going to, but it could. But unless you actually sell out, you don't actually make the gain. So as everyone decides to hold, they've actually not improved their position anymore, except on paper. So what's the problem? Well, everyone's whaling up and holding everything, hoping that it's going to be the next Bitcoin or the next Ethereum or the next big thing. And this pumps the price up because people want to buy. But if someone tries to sell, then we sell a bit too deep into the order book, and that means that there's it's going to trigger on matching runoff. Then we get that sort of thing happening. Oh dear. If you've got something that's trading at $300, you really don't want it to drop to 10 cents. That's not good. So you can probably skip through that sort of thing. So I thought I was going to wrap up. Don't put in what you can't afford to lose. I'll always start with that. It's not an investment because you're not normally buying into some actual tangible thing that's likely to go up in value. Normally you're investing in some bits and bytes, and if it gets hacked, chances are it goes somewhere else. Unregulated, these are unregulated markets and exchanges, so you've got to be really careful what you get into. There's nobody to look out for your interests. But regulated though, it's important to be equal on both sides. It doesn't mean better. In Wall Street Journal today, this evening, the SEC got hacked. The SEC is the regulator for regulated companies in the US, and that's the place that you make your confidential filings that are made public at a certain period of time. Well, they got hacked, and somebody was trading based on the information they had gained from hacking the SEC, the regulator. Oops. Yeah, so it's not all perfect and rosy over there either. There's price manipulation going on all over the place as well, and it's important to remember that markets can remain irrational for much longer than you can remain solvent, so don't try and short on things that you think are going to go downhill, because they'll stay up for just longer than you can afford. Price manipulation in the Bitcoin ecosystem, there's a paper about it if you're interested. And beware of scams, as we said earlier. They're polished, they look really professional and trustworthy, it can take years for the truth to unravel, but eventually the police do get involved, and normally they call in City of London police because they're really good at investigating financial fraud and dodgy people, and they start tearing things around, but they're not really going to be able to get the money back because it's all been into cryptocurrency. So yeah, and often the tech's not there, or the concept is not really that plausible either. So let's make a coin. It's going to take, I'll show you how long it takes. We're going to make a coin. See if we can do it. Okay, so what are we going to call our coin? Can you see that? Yeah. Someone give us a name. Name, beer, coin. Right? So we're going to call that NBC. Let me make this bigger for you. NBC. These bits are fine. We're super elite, so I made it all at 1337 earlier. Initial blocks. So how many? How big do you want the reward to be? I think we need 9,001 in the first block, so it is over 9,000. Block reward. Blocks per reward half. That's probably okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. And we click go. And when we click go, they go away and they actually download to the bottom of the screen here. I think we're. Very strange. Sophos Web Protection is downloading and scanning our file. Okay, it'll download in a second, and what we'll get is we'll get a tar.gz file. Click here to retrieve file. There we go. So I'll click that. Okay, right. The proxy server is not working, but I've got one down here. I made one called Scamcoin earlier. So you click this, it opens up, and you've got a full example with even a README file and everything, or if you want to just go and upload it straight onto Git. So we can go and open it up. So let's open that up in text edit, and here we go. We've got scamcoin.org. It's even made all the details. It's written as a nice README file. It's called it Scamcoin. It's even got a license and everything. So in about 10 seconds you can build your own coin. So just to be aware of, when you see someone's made a coin, that's probably how long it took them. Thanks. Yeah, you can do questions now if you want to. If anyone's got any questions, then feel free to fire away. Everyone's off to make their own coins tonight, aren't they? Yeah.
Have you invested in any ICOs?
No. No, because if you want to invest in one, then you say, well, I need to hedge. So then you invest in more. So then you end up with all over the place, and then next thing you know, most of them will probably go down the pan. Who knows? So I've not really been interested in investing in ICOs now.
What projects do you like to look at?
What do I like to look of?
Scotland project, obviously.
What I like to look of is things that actually do something that involves blockchain. I think if you're not using blockchain and you're building a coin, chances are the coin will become defunct the first time a VC invests in it and says, no, I want number of customers. Because if you have, if you need a coin in order to interact with a service, it's going to be friction toward mainstream adoption, at least at the moment. So when you get a VC involved and they say to you, I need more users, we need monthly average users to go up, what's the first thing you're going to do is get rid of the coin or somehow streamline it and get it out of the way so that people can get involved more easily. And at that point the coin becomes fairly pointless. So I think things that are actually based in the blockchain would be the kind of most interesting at the moment.
There's actually quite a lot of support within the VC community for how they could be used to generate fat protocols and so on. So it's not all
doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. Yeah.
No. Big opportunities, and a lot of people are looking at it as, hey, we can disrupt the VCs, but the VCs are also interested as well, because trust me, if they reckon that they can spot a trend from what people are doing in ICOs that shows what's investable, they'll be straight onto it, and they're not losing their money when they're doing it, so they'll be straight in if that works. IOTA. Interesting. Yeah, if you're going to make a cryptographic hash function, don't put a backdoor in it that's for copy protection. It's not a good idea, especially when it produces collisions. Yeah, IOTA made some interesting decisions. They decided to put a copy protection feature to stop people taking their open source code that allows anyone to use it and then use it. And the idea was if someone was to use it, they knew a secret that would let them do nasty things. Bit questionable. They've raised, I think their market cap's 2 billion at the moment, so I've not looked at the graphs recently.
You fixed that, was that?
Yeah, they fixed it when someone discovered it,
Yeah.
but what else is there?
Yeah. What are the things that Neo?
I don't know what that one is.
It's the
Chinese.
Alright.
Neo.
Like the one Neo,
Mm.
the one that's government.
All government backed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's obviously interesting with what China's doing in blockchain at the moment. So in Bitcoin mining is a kind of $2 billion industry right now, and a lot of it goes on in China because there's some really cheap electricity available. So you can get really cheap power and set up your mining rigs in China. But the big problem is if you want to get capital out of China, they've got capital controls in place. You can't just take the money out of the country. So what you do is you invest in Bitcoin mining, and then you take your proceeds, and they can go straight across the border. So they're obviously clamping down on that right now because they don't want people doing that. Because it's just burning its heat. See? Yep.
Do you think the FCA is going to adopt a similar stance as SEC in terms of regulating these coin crowd sales and so on?
I don't think they're going to take exactly the same stance as the SEC. I think they're going to move in that direction. There's certainly indications that they're willing to talk about it, with putting warnings out about things.
Yeah.
I think the SEC traditionally are much more reserved than the FCA are. So I suspect we'll not see it go as extreme. I think there is definitely recognition in the UK that there's a lot of opportunity here in the space, and that innovative models for people to raise money are a good thing. I do think I suspect we could see some kind of regulation around how you phrase it. I mean, there already is. You shouldn't be saying things like it's going to do this, it's going to do that. It should all have warnings. I could see the warning type things coming in. I don't know if we're going to see a ban. I think it'd be interesting to see what Ross thinks of that in a minute.
Because from what I've gathered, like the SEC, they only have a concern if it's deemed as a security.
Yes.
They call it howdy test, haven't they?
Yeah.
So if you can word in a certain way, then you kind of get around that.
Oh yeah. Lawyers can normally get your way around the Howey test, but the question is going to be if we adopt a similar approach, or if we say it's going to be, is it a security is a very difficult one, and they might even decide that the test needs to be revised. Who knows?
Howdy test is so ambiguous as well.
Yeah. It depends on who reads it.
Greg, you mentioned a minute ago something about mining, and I wonder what your thoughts were in general about other means based on kind of physical actions or sensors or other means of generation of kind of asset or token, and if you had any thoughts on them. So things other than mining, basically.
So I think it's important to have the distinction between so the mining process. The purpose of mining in blockchain is to get consensus around what's been seen and what's going into the next block. The kind of main ways that we do that at the moment, you've got your mining, which is your proof of work. So I think every Bitcoin transaction, this is transaction not block, I believe at the moment costs $5 in terms of actual power cost. If you look at the amount of retail power that's consumed to do it, it's about $5 per transaction. So that's a lot of power. It's about the same amount of power as a small country being burned pretty much constantly just to do that. So I think it's important to have that distinction. In terms of other physical interactions, you would need to find a way that would allow those to satisfy people to reach a consensus. So the goal of the consensus is going to be that we all agree we see the same thing, we all agree it's true, we all agree it's happened, and we're all willing to move on from that point there. So it's about like agreeing to go to lunch. If you've got 2 people, you can reach a consensus easy. If you've got 100 people, it's going to be tricky. And that's the part that you would need to identify a way around that with the physical world. The problem with the physical world is not everybody can observe it by themselves. So you need to find a way to get other people to trust what you observed.
Isn't Ethereum doing that for stake?
Proof of stake, yeah. So proof of stake is the next one. So proof of stake is along the idea all in the lines of you vouch for a block with an amount of money, and if that block remains true in 100 blocks time, then we'll give you your vouched for. You will give you your vouching back with your bonus. But if you vouch for a false block, then the network takes your money and burns it or distributes it to people or whatever.
What can happen if you are malicious though?
Yes. So that's the idea with proof of stake. The challenge with that though is you then have to hold lots of money in it in order to use it for proof of stake.
I think it starts off at 1,000 Ethereum.
Yeah, so you've got that. There are other consensus models. There's one called Algorand, which Dougie and the Scott Coin guys really loved, but it's still a white paper stage. But it's a nice concept, and it's sort of, yeah. Really?
Heard much of proof of elapsed time,
Not looked at that one yet, I'll have a look.
Hyperledger structures.
Hyperledger, okay.
It seems to offer almost zero power costs.
Interesting.
But I'll still to see the logic of it in a way I actually understand. Yeah, but it's certainly one worth watching.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can
But
do
that has
Algorand
to
and
have
figure it
a
out.
permission blockchain.
Oh, permissioned.
Yeah, it has to be on a permission
Yeah.
blockchain.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you're on
Or
unpermissioned, it's not
everybody
going to work.
has to agree to use fairly recent high-end Intel motherboards.
Yeah, because it's DRM.
Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're
For the use in stock coin, which will be regulated and is not a scam coin, you're going to have to join our permission blockchain to use it. So for us, proof of elapsed time is interesting.
Yeah, if you've got a closed chain, then you can use all sorts of much simpler things. You can go to the really simple, round robin, which is that you have a group of participants that are allowed to write, and you say the same guy can't write, 3 times in the last 8 blocks, and then from there, other people can just participate ad hoc. Proof of elapsed time, that would, that sounds like that would work again in a permission chain only, where it's just the amount of time since it happened. But when you go to an unpermissioned chain where anyone can work with, that's when it's more difficult to reach the consensus, and that's also where you have the problem with physical observations of what happens in the world.
See if China ban mining, will that not create a huge problem
Until the difficulty rate adjustment came in, the blocks would be slow. I'm not sure exactly how slow because I don't remember the exact numbers, but when Bitcoin Cash forked, they had the emergency difficulty adjustment. Regular Bitcoin did not have that, so you would probably see slow blocks for quite some time till you got to the next 2000.
So Bitcoin Cash gets round that.
But they added in basically wrote some code when they forked that said we're going to add an emergency difficulty adjustment because they could see that this was going to happen when they forked. So they put in some code that says when the fork happens, if the hash rate, if the time between the blocks goes really low, it's really high, there's a huge gap between blocks. Next block, drop the difficulty to quickly get back on track.
Thanks very much, Greg. I think everyone enjoyed that. Lots of questions as well. So thanks again, Greg. Can I invite Ross Laurie to take the stage, please?
Cheers. Where's the button? Can I get that laser as well? Are you switching it off before I say anything dodgy? I did ask for that before we started, but you switched off. Actually, whilst we're waiting on that to go up, I'm Ross. I know some of you. I've been around for a while. I was introduced as Deloitte's Ross. I do some work with Deloitte, but I tell you what, a bit of background on me. I've been around for a bit. I've been dead lucky that every single bit of technology I've got interested in has turned out to be worth lots of money, and then I've tried to retire twice. And you just can't retire. There's a brilliant dream that we retire when we get older. It's probably the only time you can retire because you're too knackered to do anything else. I mean, that's proof of time elapsed right there, Am I on? Oh, the one with all the money. Yeah. Right. I'll try and keep this quick. This stems from, I used to run a business and I like drinking, so on Fridays we'd finish up pretty early and I'd always make people do 5 things in 5 minutes. So tell me about nothing to do with what we're working on, just tell me about 5 things in 5 minutes so I can learn something today whilst I drink beer. And I kind of thought I'd try and emulate that here, but we'd be massively let down on the beer front. I'm driving anyway, I'm just having a wee dig, because I got bloody lost, I'm having a shite day. Anyway, so I'm going to do 5 things about ICOs in 5 minutes. I mentioned that we talked about Deloitte. I do work with Deloitte. I've been working with Deloitte for a couple of years. I set up the blockchain lab in London with a couple of the guys on the team. We then built a product called Smart Identity, which is sort of a federated self-sovereign identity model, which is what we're all going to move to at some point in the next 3 or 4 years. Uport are making big moves in that space just now, out in that fantastic wee town of Zug where all the cool stuff happens. So before I go on, right, I just want I'm not very good at presentations. I really don't like being filmed, and I don't like being that well known, to be honest. But when I'm doing these ones, this is difficult, isn't it? I've just, whatever the subject title is of the slide that's coming up, right, I just keyed that in to Google, and whatever image came up, I just went with it. So that was initial coin offerings brought that up, and I'm caveating this because there's a picture later on that could be viewed as dodgy. I'll let you know. It's not, but some people are politically motivated. So, first of all, that is dead important to, whether you agree with it or not, accept it for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about. It doesn't exist, right? Cash exists, gold exists, other stuff that can be viewed as a commodity exists. Money doesn't, it's just stuff on a ledger, and it's this great con that we've all been roped into. And it's worse than that as well, because it's like a sort of tidal flow that money is. It comes in at one point in the month, then it disappears back out. There's a nonsense, but I get we've had to build systems that way, because that's how, until recently, we had to create efficiencies. But we don't have to do that anymore, right? Money can just flow like a river, like actual cash flow now. I mean, if you're sitting in a call centre, getting paid by the hour, there's no reason you shouldn't be walking out the door that night with your money in your digital wallet. It just seems unfair you have to wait for another 20 days to get it. So just bear the fact that money doesn't exist in mind. And actually, I was trying to think of we talk about cryptocurrencies. I tend to think of them as a bit more as crypto commodities, because it's not really a currency. And I was speaking to the missus, before I came through. I was like, what can you think of like a local, like what would be a colloquial Glaswegian example of doing a trade but without using money, or bribing someone to get what you want but without using money? And she sort of came up with the brilliant one, the glass check, you know, like a globe bottle that you would get 10p for or whatever it was in the olden days. But my favourite was, and I do this, I lived in Glasgow for years and I like a night out. And often you'd find yourself outside Central Station with that massive taxi queue. And she told me really, really early, nip into the Blue Lagoon, get yourself a massive portion of chips and cheese. Don't eat it, obviously, I mean, unless you're mental. But just walk up the queue, and someone will say, "Oh, go and give some of your chips and cheese." You can edge in, you've bought yourself into the queue. So there's the most bizarre example of a colloquial commodity exchange I could think of, but it emphasises the point that money doesn't exist. If I'd gone up with a tenner, I might have got in, but I'd have started a fight, you know? So it's about being clever with your non-money money. So, I'm going to start with IPOs versus ICOs. The work that I do with Deloitte, and I am in my Deloitte costume today. The work that I do with Deloitte exposes me to you know, corporates and you know, speculators and you know, the folk that run the world at the moment. And there's a lot. I keep getting asked, well, what's the difference between an IPO and an ICO? And I'm getting sick of this. I'm actually sick of ICOs already. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's brilliant because it's providing some funds for some really brainy folk to do some clever stuff. But on the other hand, it's kind of screwed the whole thing up. Here's the best guess I've got at a definition, and I'm not telling you this is fact, I'm happy to debate it. An IPO, as far as I can see, is designed to bring new owners into your business and a bit of funding. An ICO is kind of like crowdfunding. It's about building a user base, an ecosystem, pre-selling part of your product by giving away this token. And it kind of bugs me that we've kind of lost sight of that a little bit, and it's become this, you know, let's go to the moon and all that stuff. I mean, for me, when cryptocurrencies tank temporarily, I'm not bothered because I'm not trying to make money from it. I believe in what we're trying to do, and therefore we need to all power that system with these tokens. So, it all started with Ethereum for me. There could be another ICO that I'm not aware of, but Ethereum was the first one. By the way, that was brilliant. That was just typed Ethereum into Google and I got a sort of Pink Floyd dark side. I mean, to be fair, the blockchain is like caught in the crossfire of childhood and stardom, so there's a Pink Floyd reference there, I get that. But in the beginning there was Ethereum, right? And very quickly, so I've been mucking about with this since 2012 and accumulated a bunch of Bitcoins through usually Americans giving me them at conferences to show off that they knew how to work Bitcoins. And I'll say us, but we bought into this idea of Ethereum. But Bitcoin did some cool stuff for cash. In Ethereum, we're going to look at all the other types of contracts that we did in life, and we'll do the same contract for that we've done with cash. So if you're going to get married, you could use this contract for whatever else. And what they said was like, and by the way, we all kind of bought into this. We all kind of went, yeah, that's brilliant, actually, because Bitcoin works. I really like that, and yeah, this makes sense if you're going to build more of them. And at the time they said, right, we'll tell you what, this puts everything in context, right? For every 1 Bitcoin you give us, we'll give you 2,000 Ethereum tokens, or ethers. So if right now, if you put 10 Bitcoin in, back in June 2014, you've now got £500,000 worth of fiat money, old money, if you convert it, if you're daft enough to convert it, sitting in your wallet. So then things got a bit mad. And by the way, I typed in crazy money to the Google engine there, and it brought up that picture. I had to use it. But so things started to get out of control, and I blame the Dow, right? I mean, let's just have a quick look at that. 152 million raised. I actually thought it was a brilliant idea. It was just poorly audited. But actually, let me just go back. When that crypto ICO was launched with Ethereum, I can't remember the period. It ran for a month or so. Someone will correct me on that. But I think it raised 32,500 Bitcoin, which at the time was worth about $18 million. But Ethereum had a plan. They were going to give out development grants, and they were going to build this ecosystem, and we all bought into it. We went, yeah, fine, have my Bitcoin. They're worth $1. I can't spend them anywhere anyway, so you might as well have them in 2014. So people pumped their Bitcoin into Ethereum, and then, as the example I gave, if you put 10 in, you're sitting on £500,000. Trouble is, just after the Ethereum ICO, Bitcoin tanked, like proper tanked, like halved. And it kind of stayed that way for about a year. And it kind of came up a little bit, but it didn't start picking up again till this DAO concept came out. And my belief on that, I don't think we should ever have had a hard fork, because I think the vast majority of people that invested in the DAO did so because they're sitting on £500,000 that they can't spend anywhere. You might as well go and put it in something else and actually use the tokens for what they were designed for, to fund other ideas and create new enterprises. Yeah, and we all know what happened, they got stuffed up, but it's still a fundamentally decent idea, just poorly audited. And then we've had, I think we were asking about Bancor. Bancor was 150 million in 3 hours. Tezos, the interesting thing about that was the 160 million in 30 hours. Filecoin's just, I think it's at 250, I can't remember what it was in the press. And you've seen Status and Civic. And I mean, I actually sat in the office when the Status ICO was on, and we were trying to get invested in it, or we were trying to dump some money into it. And I don't know if anyone sat and watched it, but it hung, it stopped. The whole blockchain stalled. And in the first block that came through was for a 120 million transaction. And then the next block was 19 million transaction. And it became very apparent that they'd held back and let the institutional investors get in first. I just thought, fuck that, you know? Civic was the same, you know, I can remember sitting in Civic in the office, and it was like trying to get tickets for the Spice Girls, you know, it's like, you know, you just keep hitting refresh, trying to get, and then when you got you're in position, you know, 8,000 in a queue, so you get served on Wednesday, by which point the thing's shut anyway. As I say, I'm sick of it, right? But, and it's for that very reason that I get a lot of people saying to me now, you know, can you give me any tips on what ICOs to invest in? And my stock answer now is, all right, well, what are you interested in? Like, what do you care about enough that you'd lend them some money that they can build what they're going to build so that you can then use it when it's built, like what we did with Ethereum? And no, I'm not interested in that. I just want to know what I can put money into now and then sell it next week. And we've got, the world's just a mess, you know, everyone's kind of missed the point of what this was meant to do. And that's what's pissing me off about it. But that's not to say that I'm not involved. Anyway, so, what was my next slide? Right, don't worry about China. And I really just wanted to put that slide in so I could say that. Don't worry about China. If you zoom out on the Bitcoin prices, I mean, the ban on ICOs, they've got form in this, it makes sense. You know, remember 2-3 years ago, there was a whole bunch of generals jailed because they were converting their money into dollars and then they were moving to Australia. The Chinese don't really like you taking their money in and moving it away. Actually, as most governments shouldn't. And you know, you start seeing these numbers like over the year, with $1.8 billion invested in ICOs, and you go, oh, that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's not that much money in the scheme of things, but you know, it's a lot. I mean, I'll pay for a bit of the NHS or something, I suppose. But you start to go, okay, well, hang on, but that's $1.8 billion that's disappeared out of fiat balance sheets, government balance sheets. It's gone. It's probably never coming back. I mean, I'm still amazed when people sell cryptocurrency because they've missed the point of. It's not about hodling, it is, right? But it's not meant to be about that. You're meant to believe in the thing you invested in. It's like crowdfunding. So don't worry about China, because I found this brilliant little graphic on Reddit, which I think kind of summarises what's happening. I quite like it. I think he looks a little bit like the banker. But it's that kind of, you know, I've got apples for sale. Oh shit, someone's stealing the apples from the tree. I'll go and cut that down. And he's kind of forgotten that he's got a whole forest and everyone's at it. And it's like, you know, if they're going to cut that one down and ban us from doing that, we'll just build another one, because you can write these coins in, what, 2 minutes? Yep. And actually, I'm not saying you should, right? But I mean, it's that sort of will. I think we all get in this community that there's a better way to do money and a better way to do a lot of things. And I do have a bit of a concern. I say don't worry about China, but there's a sort of saying in the fintech world at the moment. You know, it's first the rest, then the West. As in, the West's been leapfrogged because there is technology out there that would allow us to speed things up, but the majority of our middle class jobs rely on us not doing that. So that's not very good for votes. So let's just let things trundle along and we'll let the rest take over us. So I have got a concern about that a wee bit. I can't remember what my next slide is now. Oh yeah, if you missed out. If you've missed out, well, there's plenty of them, right? But here's 2 things. So first of all, airdrops. Turns out there's a thing called airdrop that Apple have got, but it seems to be a popular term at the moment. Byteball, for example, are doing an airdrop every month. So Byteball is one of these directed acyclic graph blockchain non-blockchains, which can go much faster and in all accounts is much better. For the record, I've given up on the debate of how the technology works. I'm more interested in the direction of travel and what we build on top of it. This concept of one computer, consensus computing, is here with us to stay. Someone much smarter than me will figure out exactly how it's done. People that look like Vitalik, that's the guys that's going to worry about how things clock to it on the back end. But anyway, apparently DAGs, DAGcoin, directed eccentric graphs, you've got Byteball, you've got IOTA, there's a whole bunch of people coming out working with them. According to my chums in MIT, they are the real deal, so I should believe in it. I do believe in IOTA, despite what's happening. I'm doing a lot of work in decentralised energy at the moment, and how we move people into storing their own value and transporting it around. In fact, if you're interested, Google theenergyfog.com. I'm working with the Open Fog Consortium in the States. The fog, of course, being the next layer down from the cloud, which is where we're going to have to figure out a way to get all these connected devices to speak to each other without clogging up the network. So the open fog architecture is being designed. And I read it and I thought there's a lot of similarities between the open fog architecture and what was potentially going to happen with the Lightning Network or Vitalik's MOV paper or any of these other IOTAs, that are talking about how we connect things up. So, but airdrops is, or another word for it is initial fair distribution, is where someone's done their ICO, they've created their coin, or they're creating their coin, but they really want everyone to use it, even those that have missed out. So with Byteball, for example, you can send them a message from your Bitcoin wallet saying like, here I am, here's my Bitcoin wallet. They will then go and look in it, and for every Bitcoin you've got, they'll give you 60,000 bytes for Byteball. For some people I know it's working out at about £1,000 a month they're getting for free if they were to convert it back into old money, which I've already said no one should ever do. So there's airdrops, keep an eye out for them. I think IOTA are doing some. Go, apparently is going to do an airdrop next month, according to the Reddit forums. OMG, and Vitalik was seen wearing an OMG t-shirt in Russia the other week, so I think it's got legs. If someone wants to have a look at an ICO that's got legs, OMG coin might be one of them. But there's another one that I'm involved in, Etch, and I'm not plugging, well I am plugging this because the ICO went live on Monday and we've got a fucking cool logo. So this is, I just want to talk about it because this is actually quite profound. Shit, actually. What we looked at was in the construction industry, or that's the sector we picked, but in all industries, late payments has a massive knock-on effect on small businesses, and particularly the construction industry. Like, 1 week out can knock out a business, and I think 1 in 10 businesses in the construction industry are going bust every month because of this. And it doesn't need to be, right? Because if you're building a house, the money is already there before you start the job. But the way that the current systems work, that I had to explain were a bit tidal before, is you'll do the work on the Monday, and then you'll get paid on the Friday if you're lucky, but more realistically these days in service sector jobs, it's at the end of the month. So you're effectively extending credit to your employer for up to 30 days, which I don't think's on, especially given the money should be there. So what Edge is trying to do is create an ecosystem within the construction industry, which we can then roll out, where you turn up on site, our beacons detect where you are, and GPS and things, so we know when you're on site, the clock starts when you're on, and then at the end of the day, you can actually sit and watch the money flowing into your account during the day, and at the end of the day you can go away and that's you've got your cash. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to get paid or not, or whether your business is going to go bust. But it's made us do some really interesting stuff. So first of all, we then had to create an access to that money, right? Because I'm not going to the you can read the white paper on how it works, on how we've managed to try and classify on a one-for-one basis the Etch coin versus the pound if it were in this country, or the dollar in the States. Someone much brainier than me wrote that. He can't dress himself, that's why I know he's brainier than me. Anyway, so what we try to do is tie up that full supply chain. And the thing that's really interesting about it is we had to create this ERC20 token card, which to all extents is now a bank, which allows you to basically go and buy your fags at lunchtime. You've got cryptocurrency in it, but you don't know that. It just looks like pounds to you, but it only becomes pounds at the point when you need it to be it. It allows us to collect tax at the point of payment for the taxman, so they are quite, I hope they'll be quite happy about that. It actually also then makes you go, as I say, well actually if I can keep all my earnings in this wallet, which I know is safe because it's on the blockchain, now as I say, bear in mind, we've still got a long way to go in that, we're only 8 years in, very early tech, then actually why do I need a bank? And why do it changes that whole view of what cash flow is. It's no longer coming in tidal style, like I said at the start, and then going back out. It's constantly coming in. And it seems ridiculous that we have these systems of payday loans and credit scores and all this nonsense that's been built up to I think, justify a bunch of middle-class jobs, but actually it keeps people down. And I love cash for that. You know, cash is very uncool at the moment because everyone wants to use digital currencies. But I love cash. It's like the great democratiser. It looks nice. You know, whenever you go to a foreign country, you can't wait to see the money. Maybe pin it up on the pub in the Jolly Judge. Anyway, so Edge went live on Monday. It's running for 4 weeks. We have put shed loads of hurdles in to make it very difficult. We don't want speculative people. We want folk from the construction consortium who we've got on board. We want people that actually genuinely believe and there's a better way to work and earn money. So there's a whole KYC process. It's not easy. We had a stab at launching a few months ago with all these hurdles in place, and our lawyers said, "You're mad, no one will go for this." And yeah, they were right. So we had another word with them, and we relaunched. So it's a lot easier now. But just have a look anyway. I am plugging it by the very nature of the fact I've talked about it. But this is a purist's profound model of, yeah, there's a token here for a system which is going to change the way that we all earn. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I think we've done a lot of work on the right track. And I said it was 5 things in 5 minutes. I've got a 6th bonus thing because I'm sick of ICOs, and you can still do really cool stuff on the blockchain without ICO in it. And again, even if ICOs get clamped down on, well, we've done all right so far, haven't we? I mean, we did really well until ICOs came along. We'll find another way. That little apple tree picture, where's that? That's what will happen. They'll ban ICOs and we'll go, well, do you know what? We've got another way of funding money. Ross is going to buy us all chips and cheese and we'll be happy. Right, that's the end now, actually. Yeah, it is. Done.